Good evening, Hamilton Community Association. Thank you for having me. My name is Larry Wartlow. I'm running for mayor because for the 40+ years, I suffered the same stale policies y'all suffered with. And it's about change for a different choice. My vision for Baltimore City is very simple. Homeless no more. My children will be educated, not just competing at a local level, but at a global level. People in Baltimore will have access to the best skilled, qualified jobs where they can make more than minimum wage. There will be no more Freddie Grays. There will be no more elderly getting shot waiting on the bus stop. And there will be no more 3-year-olds sitting on a porch playing, getting shot for no reason at all. They will get a chance to live their life. My name is Larry Wartlow, friends of LarryWartlow.com. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. If you know that the master plan that has been worked on Baltimore Development Corporation over the last few decades has had a goal of designating the Baltimore City an international economic zone to be filled with global corporations and global corporate factories, and having a city center full of the rich of the world who are executives in these global corporate factories, then you would understand the development plan. You understand why the surrounding communities are crumbling and being left unpopulated, and everybody is being brought into this city center for density. Because the goal is to have that one Baltimore be part of this one world that is a bunch of international economic zones. And it won't look anything like Baltimore. It'll be gone. My one Baltimore is this Baltimore. I have the plan of holding that global corporate plan at bay and redeveloping every city as it is, every community as it is, for the citizens who live in the communities, building a small business economy in every community, and having Baltimore a stable, healthy economy that exists on its own, separate from a Wall Street and separate from global corporate control of our economy. I'll talk to you more about that with the questions coming. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming. Thanks for paying attention. Thanks for living in Baltimore. I'm a Baltimorean by choice. My wife and I moved here 28 years ago from New York and never looked back. I'm a Rutland Street kid. That's where I was born and that's where I was raised. Middle-income street kid, played in the streets, and grew up running around outside. They do that in Baltimore as well, but it's not as easy as it used to be. But let's get back to credentials. I've spent half of my life, actually more than half of my life, talking about the issues of the world, the nation, the state, and the city. 18 years on WBAL, a lot of you heard me, a lot of you know where I stand on certain issues. I believe deeply in the city of Baltimore. I don't talk much about what it was, although its history is extraordinary. And I don't even talk that much about its future. That too is likely to be extraordinary, provided we have a change in attitude and we have a change in perception of what the city is, not only among ourselves, but for those outside. We have to redefine the city of Baltimore. We have to understand that it is a great city, that it has attractions that are cultural and social and recreational that are unequaled by most of the cities in the United States, maybe all of them. More later.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. It's a little unfair to have to come behind that great voice of Alan Walden, but I'll carry on. Thank you so much for inviting us in here this evening. It's wonderful to be able to share the stage with so many a really, really great candidates, and I mean that. We're a great bunch of individuals. So I came by tonight to just talk with you a little bit and listen to you a lot. I'm Carl Stokes. I am currently a member of the City Council. I've been back for the last 5 years. I served in the 90s, but then I left politics for 15 years, and while I was away, I'm a small business guy, but while I was away, I opened and co-founded a charter school for boys, 6th, 7th, 8th graders, and I just feel so strongly about my passion about education. I see so many young people in this city who are not able to get a good, strong education so that they can go on to live great lives, take care of themselves, take care of their families. In my school, it was all day, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. It was Saturday. It was 12 months a year. It was mental health. It was robotics. It was band. It was everything that young people need in schools. And right now, in this city, 89% of our fourth graders, that's 89% of our fourth graders are below proficiency in reading and in math. 89%. That's a number that we're going to change in my first year. In my second year, we want to flip that number from 89% non-proficiency. Are we having church? No, I don't. The tambourine. Anyway, I won't do stand-up. I'm sorry. Thank you so much. We'll talk some more in a little bit.
First, let me say thank you for the opportunity to be with you all this evening. I am excited about being the next mayor of Baltimore. I love this city. And I want you all to know that I came here from Morgan State University to be a student, and I graduated from Morgan State University with a master's degree in business. But the reason I love this city so much is because I always see the glass as half full instead of half empty. I've served on 23 community boards in this city, including the Hamlin Family Center, and I've worked to push this city forward. And all I'm asking you all to do is allow me to continue a vision, one mission, one goal, and that's to put Baltimore back to work. Because this city has an unemployment rate that is unacceptable. And what we need is someone who's going to bring us all together, equalize opportunities. And I built the first new school in this city in 30 years, but I know that we can do some great things together, equalize wealth, create opportunities, and make sure that our city is one of the safest cities in this nation. It is about all of us coming together, sharing opportunities, sharing our views, and working together. I look forward to talking with you more about how we can create the best city in America, having worked for the best mayor in America, William Donald Schaefer, and making this city a safe city, a creative city, a city with one vision, and all of us pushing Baltimore forward, not backwards. Let's work together. Thank you for this opportunity.
Hey, good evening, everybody. My name is Emmanuel McCray. I'm a Green Party candidate running for mayor of Baltimore City. This is my second go around. One, to show Baltimore that we have other options besides one political party faction. I'm just a regular, everyday working individual for years, just trying to make definitely change in the city. You know, I love all the policies all my candidates up here are doing, but the difference between me and them, they got to respond to the people who funds them and all that, and only answer to Baltimore City. One thing a lot of people don't know about Green Parties, I don't accept money from, Green Party doesn't accept money from PACs, unions, nor corporations. And the one thing about politics, please research your candidate. Research me and all, you know, I'm not a perfect individual, and I'm out here in East and West Baltimore every day trying to make a change, educate people, and help with programs and all that, even from the state level to the local level. I thank you all for your time. I definitely get to share some more. Look me up at prayforthepeople.com. Thank you.
Last April, they told us that our city was burning. Every major news outlet, every major newspaper said Baltimore was on fire. And I remember being on the streets as a peacekeeper and protecting some of the businesses in my neighborhood and thinking to myself, what if our elected officials were paying attention before this? What if they were listening before this very moment? My name is Joshua Harris, and I believe that the single greatest issue in Baltimore city politics is distribution of capital, or the lack thereof. Who gets resources and who doesn't? And for administration after administration, we've seen them only choose to allocate resources to downtown anything to touch the harbor, while the rest of our neighborhoods have been left to fend for themselves and scrape and fight for every grant dollar they can find to sustain their communities and revitalize them. And that needs to change. As such, my administration will focus on creating healthy, sustainable, and economically viable neighborhoods, using creative and innovative approaches like bringing to market new homes that are energy efficient, installing a solar streetlight program that would not only make our streets safer, but bring Wi-Fi to every household in Baltimore City. We also want to bring industry back to Baltimore to create jobs. When I was young, I used to spend a lot of time with my grandmother because I had a single mother who worked a lot. My grandmother would take me, my sister, and my older brother to these meetings where people wear green shirts. And sometimes they would yell and protest and scream, and other times they would just meet and plan, and sometimes they would just celebrate together. It wasn't until I was much older that I found out that she worked for the union, fighting for fair wages and workers' rights. Because she believed, just like she taught me to believe, that every single one of us deserves equal access and opportunity. And I asked you to envision a Baltimore where every single resident, and how different the story could have been of last April if we all had equal access and opportunity to be successful.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Patrick Gutierrez, and I'm running for mayor because, as a father of 2 young daughters, I want a better city for them and for everyone who lives here. And like so many other people who live here, I'm just fed up with the way our city has been run. I'm fed up with the way people have been treated. I'm fed up with the way our money has been mismanaged, wasted, lost, and outright stolen. And I'm fed up with the way our needs have been ignored. We deserve better. The office of the mayor has the responsibility to set the example for how the entire city is going to be viewed. And previous mayors have set a very low bar. Now, to tell you a little bit about myself, I was an operations manager for many years, but I was trained specifically to go in and turn around poor performing operations. And then my company sent me all around the country to do it. Basically, I was hired to clean up messes. And when I look at city government, I see a big old mess that needs to be cleaned up. And it starts with better leadership and day-to-day management of every city agency and better oversight of our money. We put those things in place, we will see a better Baltimore. I look forward to sharing more with you tonight about some of my ideas on how I plan to make that happen, but thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate you coming out.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me here. I'm a Republican, and I'm not too sure we have too many Republicans in the audience. But anyway, I want to express my views. My background is I'm a retired math teacher from Poly and Boyce Latin. I was in the Army as an officer, retired from there, and I'm an official member of the Republican Central Committee. I work hard there to try to have a Republican presence in this city. My main issue is, I guess, is crime. For me, if we don't have a safe city, then everything else sort of falls by the wayside. The first priority is to get a safe city. My car was stolen last year. We had home invasion on our block. He moved out. But more importantly, we have a homicide rate of 55 per 100,000 people. Now let's give a comparison. New York is 5. Boston is 2.5. We're way off the charts as far as homicide, which is one indication of crime, and probably the most reliable one because a body shows up. We have to do something with respect to that. Now let me give you an example. About 10 years ago, Johns Hopkins had 2 terrible homicides. Girls were killed. And of course they panicked a little bit because when parents send their daughters to college, they assumed safety. So what did they do? They flooded that area with security, and they haven't had one since then. Thank you very much.
Good evening, I'm David Warnock. I'm the guy that came into Baltimore 33 years ago in that pickup truck, and I'm grateful to be able to talk to you about a city that's given me everything that I have. You know, this is the most important election of a generation. It's going to determine how we view each other, how we view this city, and frankly, how the world views us. If you remember 3 things about me tonight, remember I'm about jobs and opportunity. I'm about real change and transparency. and I deliver on my promises. For 33 years, I've been building businesses and organizations in this city that have employed or worked to employ literally thousands of people. The Center for Urban Families, Green Street Academy, the businesses that I've built. I'm proud to have done that. I believe in this city. I believe that our best times are ahead. And if you remember 3 things about me, remember jobs and opportunity. Because we are going to put people to the work in this city. We're going to take this city to the place that we all aspire for it to be. We are going to write the greatest turnaround story in America together because we can do it here where we have all the talent that we need. Thank you. I look forward to talking to you more tonight, and it's a pleasure to be with you.
I'm Elizabeth Embry, and I'm incredibly proud of this city. This is a city where I've spent my life, where I've gone to public school, and where I've spent my career. I've worked as Deputy State's Attorney in the city. I've worked at the Maryland Department of Labor, the New York City Housing Department. I've served in City Hall as a lawyer and as a policymaker, and I now run the criminal division for the Attorney General for the state of Maryland. And in all these roles, I've seen it all. I've seen what works, I've seen what doesn't, and I witnessed what fuels progress in the city, but I've also so often seen what causes progress to stall without the right leadership. And I'm running for mayor because I know, from my own experience, we can do so much better in this city. And I'm running to end the violence, to expand our economy, and to take back our school system and make the school system work for all our children in this city, and to hold city government accountable to the voters, to the communities that make this city so terrific. I am a realist, and I understand that Baltimore faces real and entrenched challenges. But this election is special. This is an election where we can make a decision that will change for a generation, whether we have safe streets, safe neighborhoods, whether our schools serve our children, whether our economy grows not just for some but for all, and whether we really have a government that is effective and efficient. And the alternative is unacceptable. The alternative is the status quo, a government that is mired in corruption and waste and mired in old politics. So I think the choice is very clear, and I'm excited to be here tonight. Thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is Gershom Cupid. Some of you guys know me, some of you don't. I'm a Baltimore police sergeant, hoping to become the next mayor of Baltimore. I decided to run because I had a defining moment last year in April where it changed our city pretty much for the next at least 20, 50 years, right? Leadership failed us. We failed to address the racism that has been plaguing our cities for generations. And now we have where police officers are being targeted, not just in the city, but nationwide. And I'm running to bring a clear vision for our city. There are 2 parts of Baltimore. There are some people that actually love the police department, some do not. And fortunately, I came from the part that did not like the police so much. But my grandmother taught me that if you want change, you have to be part of the change that you want to see. So I joined the police department to be part of that change, to deal with the racism that has plagued our cities, and to do it in a responsible and respectful and lawful way. I had another defining moment last week when I lost my son, and I flirted with the thought of quitting the campaign, but my family wouldn't let me. They said, you started this journey, you ought to continue, because you will regret it if you drop out. So I'm running for Baltimore because I care, and whether I win or not, I will continue to serve you to the best of my ability. Thank you.
I went back, and it reminded me of an incident that occurred in 2012 that was dubbed by the media as President Obama's Fear Summit. If you guys may remember, in 2012, President Obama sat down with Harvard professor Henry Louis Gates and Cambridge, Massachusetts police sergeant James Crawley after an incident where the professor was arrested after trying to gain access to his own home after finding the door jammed. This occasion brought a lot of media attention over trying to bring together 2 sides of a highly entrenched controversy for a teachable moment. Since our neighborhood is home to quite a few great breweries, and Baltimore is no stranger to great divides, we'd like to know if you could bring 2 sides of the current issue together in Baltimore, who would you bring together and what would you discuss? In addition, what makes you specially qualified to bridge the divide in Baltimore? And if we could start with Mr. Cupid.
I guess I gotta go with one of my strengths, which is police reform. There have been a lot of talk, a lot of discussions, and DOJ is investigating things that need to be changed, that should have been addressed a long time ago. A lot of things I stood up for, even while yet as an officer, and faced whatever I faced during that time. And when we talk about police reform, we have to remember that we still need the police department, because 344 murders told us that we do need the police department, while addressing the police brutality that is plaguing not only our city but our nation. I believe I'm more qualified than any candidate, well, because I have something that they do not experience. I know the truth. I don't have to read a book. I don't have to ask anyone what's going on. I know firsthand. I know the hearts and thoughts of a police officer. I know the hearts and thoughts of a black man living in a city that have dealt with racism for a long time. So I see myself as absolutely the most, qualified candidate to deal with that problem. When I listen to candidates talk about police reform, the kind of things they want to do, I gotta tell you, it sounds far-fetched. Thank you.
Thank you. And I live in Waverly near Peabody Heights Brewery, so I would have my beer fest very locally. So I have spent a lot of my career prosecuting violent crime. And when you do that, you work with victims and witnesses and detectives, and you see people day in and day out who have had systems fail them over and over in the city. And your victim one day is your defendant the next. And you see all the ways the city has let people down that have led to people entering that system. So what I would do is bring together people returning from prison with the police officers who are working in their neighborhoods and have conversations around what would have mattered to them that would have kept them out of prison in the first place. I have worked in this area through programs like Safe Streets and through Ceasefire, programs that are mentioned in the plan that I put out around public safety, which has been called by experts and by community members and by the Sun as the best plan around safety in the race, of one that addresses not just how to reduce violence and crime, but also to have interventions that keep people out of the system altogether, from juvenile justice reform to reentry efforts, and how to spend money in a smarter and better and more humane way around drug treatment, and interventions that really keep people out of prison and out of the system entirely. So I want to have conversations with the people who are being put in jail by the police and the police department, and I think that would be a really productive and helpful conversation right now in this city. Thank you.
And so the police officers can understand how the people feel when police come into their neighborhoods. Because if we are going to have a safe city, it's not going to be from more policing.
It's going to be from cooperation between the communities and the police officers who are on the ground. And the only way that's going to happen is if we start with a conversation to build that trust. Thank you.
So this is a really good question for me, because this is something that I've recently done, and I'll just tell the story of what happened. 14 years ago, the University of Maryland decided to move across MLK and expand with the University of Maryland Biopark. In order to begin that, they were given $7 million to begin that project, and they made promises to create 3,000 jobs that would impact the community just one block over, the Poe Homes community. 14 years later, none of those promises have been fulfilled. And our city council just recently gifted $17.5 million to them to begin another expansion of that project, where I went to the Poe Homes community and said, hey, we need to sit down with them and see how the community can benefit from this before it happens. So we sat down with them for 8 months, and they made promises and said, yes, we can do this, yes, we can do that, yes. The community made requests that would create jobs, train people for those jobs, and invest in our young people. When it came that time to put it in writing, we were ignored, and they stopped answering calls, and they had a separate meeting with a separate half of the community that didn't look like me or the Poe Homes community, and they came to a community benefits agreement. We showed up to the city council in the city council hearing when the tip was in Councilman Carl Stokes' committee to testify against it. The community was not allowed to testify against it. I do not know why. And so basically, I convinced this community to sit down with the person that accosted them, which would be the officer in this case, and now they've been tasered after sitting down for a beer with them. And I have to ask why we continuously allow things like this to happen. The common sense pleas of the community would have established a Popperton Training Academy that would have trained people in construction, green jobs, and hospitality, which seems like it makes sense in a community that needs jobs in the city. Thank you.
Mr. McCray, again, the question was if you were to bridge divide in Baltimore City, who would you bring together and why are you especially qualified for it?
You know who I'll bring together, everybody? I would bring together everybody who's the have-nots. From the top, you know, our leaders have kept people divided by their neighborhoods. It's always homeowners versus renters versus homeless people. It's east side versus west side. And that needs to change and all that because everybody is affected in some form of way. You know, whether it be race or something and all. And for me, if I'm in the McCray administration, given the opportunity, it's all about bringing people together and all that and bringing power from the bottom. And so many of our voices is not being really heard. And so many of us is not holding our current leadership accountable because every day we're trying to live everyday lives just to survive. I know it's way more people that live in this community. They probably want to be here, but they can't because they have to work. And if I bring these people together, that's where there's an opportunity to create not just jobs, but living wage jobs. Bring forth community land trust, something I've been working on with my allies where the trust on the land. You know, we lost so many housing and people have been displaced so many years over in Baltimore City. It's crazy and all that. And instead of gentrifying and removing people, that just fixes the problem. Thank you for your time.
Senator Pugh, same question.
So this is a great question because one of the things that I've done over the years, and some of you may or may not know, was a special editor for the Sun Papers. And the reason that I became the special editor for the Sun Papers was because I wanted to bridge the gap between the black and white community. And I want to showcase people in the African American community that other parts of our community did not know, because it was my opinion that if we were able to do that, that we would discover what we had in common and we would work together to create better communities. So who would I bring together? I would bring together the richest developer doing work in our city with an elementary school child so that they could see and have conversations about the aspirations that our children have. Because when I started the Baltimore Design School, what we created was a board of directors not to run the day-to-day operation of that school, but to infuse capital and make sure that the children in that school and the teachers had what they need. And I believe that our young people absolutely are our future, and so that if a very wealthy developer would sit down and have a conversation with our young people, not only do they see the hope and the aspiration, they may want to contribute to the hopes and aspirations of our children and help us to build a better and greater city together. Thank you.
We have Mr. Stokes coming up, although I did specifically say in the rules if a candidate mentioned another candidate, they get a 30-second response. So, Mr. Stokes, you have a 30-second response to when your name came up earlier by candidate Joshua Harris, and then you have 90 seconds to respond to the question.
I'm actually not going to respond except to say that the community was led by an African-American gentleman who did decide with the greater community to put together an agreement with the Bio Park. And they worked it out. It was all community, but, you know, I'm good. Thank you so much. So I've come by, and as a good Catholic, I like my beer summit to be a wine summit, if it's all right with you guys. And we're going to have it over in the Avenue. So I would put together the inner harbor and the outer harbor. The inner harbor along the water and the rest of us. The Hamdens, the Woodbury, the Medfields, the east side, the west side. I would put us together so we could talk about what is the differences. You know, the developers, the multimillionaire and billionaire developers down at the Harbor East and the Harbor Point and all points across there, they pay little or no taxes at all. That's little or no taxes at all. And yet those of us who live in the outer harbor not only pay a very high tax rate, we pay too high a water bill. And we don't get the jobs that we spend our tax dollars on. Now, you know why the people down there don't pay taxes? Because we subsidize them. Everybody else who pays the taxes subsidize them. And I remember asking one developer to go over to the Perkins Home projects and make sure that people over there had the first choice of jobs, and go over to the elementary school and help that library, and go over to the rec center and support that. And he said, I'm not helping anybody with anything except me and my family. And I want us to sit together in the same place over on the avenue and talk about the outer harbor and the inner harbor. Thank you.
Mr. Walden, same question to you.
I'm going to answer this question backwards. The reason I think I can deal with a problem like this or an issue like this is because that's what I've done my entire life. I've talked to people. I've interviewed people. I've put people together with other people. We've discussed mutual interests, how to resolve them, how to get rid of them, how to overcome them. That's how to deal with it. Now, the question itself, who do you put together? It isn't about agencies. It isn't about buildings. It isn't about developers. It's about people. Nothing is more important than people. So here's what I do. I take a half a dozen residents of Roland Park. They can be renters, they can be owners, but a half a dozen people from Roland Park. And take a half a dozen people from West Baltimore and put them together for a dialogue. And I suspect that many of their interests will be the same. Education, transportation, poverty, housing, taxes, to different degrees, but they'd probably be pretty much in agreement on what is important to them, again, to different degrees. And one overriding thing they would probably agree on totally, and that's the most important at all. And that's 81 square miles, the city of Baltimore. That's home.
Ms. Walsh?
If you're going to rebuild the communities all around the city, you're going to build construction economies, you're going to build fresh food economies, you're going to rebuild a public school in all of the communities, you're going to send in money to build the cultural aspects, the music, the art, the spoken word. If you are going to disconnect global corporations from every one of our city agencies and build those public agencies out into the community, hiring from the community people to serve the community, you are opening up that public voice that has been missing in Baltimore forever. Those public schools are going to cross over and compete and do projects together. People are going to come over and use recreational venues that are in one community and go to the other for competitions. You're going to have fresh food economy when they're taking food to another community. And all of that opens public dialogue that has been missing in Baltimore. And that is what One Baltimore is about. It's about building those interconnections between communities, and it is all spurred by just simply developing small local economies in every community and making sure you have your public schools, your public institutions, and make sure that you're sharing all of that revenue equally so that all can grow and there will be justice in the way the development occurs. Thank you.
Mr. Wardlow?
I really wish they could have it tomorrow because what I would do is bring you all to Natty Bow, bushel crabs, and we'll go down to City Hall with the developers. Because you all are the people. You all are Baltimore. You all have the brightest ideas. You all have the energy, the creativity. But the problem that's missing is, in City Hall, you all are missing. I don't believe in when I hear people say, my administration, it's the people administration. And the reason why we're bringing you all to City Hall is because we could tell the same developers that's back in City Hall to invest back into our recs, to invest back into our school system, because everybody is not qualified for a white-collar job, which Baltimore is going towards. We miss General Motors. We need to bring them industry jobs back. We need to bring them manufacturing jobs back. We need to take small business and expand small business where they can train a young man to cut hair, to do hair, to mow a lawn, to grow crops. That's what I would do. I would bring you all to City Hall. Thank you.
This election in many ways is about what you were doing when the cameras weren't running. I would bring together, as I've been doing for years, employers and opportunity with people who have been systematically underemployed in Baltimore City. You see, in my opinion, the legacy of Freddie Gray, if nothing else, is the fact that we are all in this together. The international media is going to come back to Baltimore, and it's not going to look at the Inner Harbor. It's going to look at what we do for the fortunes of the least fortunate among us. For the last 15 years, I've been the chairman of the Center for Urban Families over on Monroe Street. We've had over 25,000 people go through our workforce development program on the way to a better life and good jobs. In fact, yesterday I was down in Annapolis testifying on a bill to make expungement of non-convictions automatic, removing the barriers that people have to getting employment in today's economy. I'm also proud to have been the co-founder of Green Street Academy over on Hilton Parkway, where we have 650 kids, 6th grade through 11th grade. And when our first graduating class graduates next year, they'll have certifications in technology, and in energy, and in healthcare. The toolkit that will give them the ability to get the job of their choice in today's global economy, connecting them with employers that are going to hire them in today's global economy if they choose not to go to a 2 or a 4-year college. And kids that are getting an AutoCAD certification in our class will also get a degree from CCBC as well. So that's what I would connect, employers and people to jobs.
Our community offers have implied on a couple of occasions that they're working long hours and that there's only one cop car per patrol. That if a violent crime happens somewhere else, patrols in our neighborhood suffer. What will be done in the future to make sure we're working smarter, not harder, and also giving our officers the support they need?
Well, let me talk a little bit about what we're going to do for public safety, because I believe that crime and a safe community are critical to our city. People have the right to walk to work. People have the right to walk to a bus stop and feel safe. So we are going to get cops out of their cars. Right now, a cop is required to get out of his or her car for 30 minutes a shift. That's just not long enough. We're going to have cops living in Baltimore and taking their cars home. We're going to have cops with body cameras. But the other thing that we're going to do is 2 things that I've been talking a lot about with respect to our police department. We're going to create a culture of promote from within our police department. We are not going to go to Oakland, California to hire our next chief of police. We are going to build a police department like we are going to build all of city government, where a young person feels like they have a shot at getting the top job. The other thing that we're going to do is we are going to redesign and we are going to redevelop all of our police district offices. I don't know if any of you have been in any of our police district offices, but they are dumps. The conditions we are asking our police to work under are not respectful. In fact, if at my company we ask people to work under those conditions, I think they might treat their customers with indifference as well. We're going to fix up the back of the house, but we're also going to fix up the front of the house and have PAL centers in the front of our police district offices and free Wi-Fi to get people talking to each other again. Thank you.
Last year, nearly 2/3 of homicide rates in the city went unsolved. They think that this is some of the reasons that there's gang violence or people turn to gangs for protection, or decide to take justice in their own hands, perpetuating the cycle of violence. How do these candidates plan to support our police department in increasing the homicide clearance rate to a number that inspires confidence in the justice system?
Well, the first problem is I can't read mine, so I don't know what the other candidate's going to do. But I do know what I'm going to do. First and foremost, after I do an internal audit for every agency that Baltimore City has, also I'll be doing an internal audit for the City Hall and even my own budget. But second and foremost, what I do believe in is how it was years ago when I was growing up. Police officers were not in police cars. They were walking the streets. We had a cop named Officer Friendly. It's time to bring that back. The only way for a cop to be inside of a police car in my administration, well, the people administration, lieutenants will be in a police car checking on the cops that's already walking the street. Any cadet that's going to be a police officer already know what district he's going to serve, what neighborhood he's going to serve. He's going to know that district in and out. After I do my internal audits, I will find the money so we cut this overtime budget, because that overtime money can actually go to other resources such as schools, such as recreation centers. It's time for us to connect the community with the police. We have to build that trust first and foremost. And the only way you can build that trust is by putting the community activists and the police officers at the same table. Thank you.
The same question to Ms. Walsh, again from the Medical Community Association. How do these candidates plan to support our police department in increasing the homicide clearance rate to a number that inspires confidence in the justice system?
The first thing anyone would do with this police department is to build a true community policing. That means that you take all of the militaristic kind of policing out. It means that you have policing that is truly constitutional. You build oversight and accountability and transparency in the police department so that everybody has a confident level that policing is occurring justly and that there is an avenue for justice if it isn't. And this builds the community trust between the police officers and the citizens. And that's good for the police officers. We're putting them in danger by giving them these kinds of aggressive, militaristic kind of policing strategies. A community policing would hire the police from the communities. We would hire lots of different police for different kinds of activities. We don't want police to think they're only there to enforce the law. They are public servants. They are there to serve. And if you have different layers of police officers working in a community in different capacity, other than just law enforcement people who are there to capture or whatever a criminal element, you build that community trust. Closing the homicide and the crime rate is tied to ending the poverty. Building all the communities, creating jobs will end that poverty, and it will get people out of the black market and out of the violence and crime.
For Mr. Walden, this question comes from Rachel Lang of Camden. What specific plans or ideas do you have that will help support and strengthen local, small, and micro businesses?
We have to be careful where we throw our money. That's the short answer. The longer answer is we've given all kinds of tax breaks and all kinds of bonuses, that's what they are, to big corporations who have developed around the Inn of Harbor. Councilman Stokes pointed that out a few minutes ago. A lot of money can be diverted, or should be diverted, to small business development, but it doesn't happen in a vacuum. In addition to small business development, you need better transportation in the city. You've got to get people to the small businesses and allow them to move more freely, more easily around the city. It is unthinkable that the birthplace of American railroading does not have a first-class rail transit system. And a rail transit system, used to call them trolley cars, now they call them light rail, helps move great numbers of people to and from locations in an environmentally friendly manner and actually implies energy and motion and action. It encourages the development of local businesses, and in neighborhoods there's nothing better than small business as a way to make a neighborhood healthy. Too many places in Baltimore, along North Avenue, for example, where small businesses used to thrive, don't have them anymore, and they should.
Thank you. I am a small business person. I owned and operated a couple of retail shops and some other places. So I want to talk specifically. Thank you for asking the question. First thing that we will do, we will buy local. In other words, we will take your dollars, your taxpayer dollars, and we will buy from local businesses right here in Baltimore. And I will make that happen. You know, and also at the Board of Estimates, when we give out these contracts to companies, I want to not take the low bid necessarily. I want to take the best value bid. That means that maybe it costs me 10 cents more to buy from a local company rather than an outside company, but the local company hires folk who live in the community, and the money that we give to someone from across the state line, we never see that money. So we're going to buy local. Secondly, we're going to reduce or eliminate all of these minor privilege fees that really are no privilege to small business owners. Thirdly, I am going to have a one-stop shop. That is to say that you don't have to go from planning to zoning to just, you're going to have a personal shopper who's going to say, what do you need to open your shop? What do you need to get your permits together? I'll carry it all. I'll take it from place to place, and we'll do it. Next, we're going to do small and microfinance loans to businesses at below prime or at 0%. We're going to do that for you, our local businesses, because you deserve it, and you'll create a stronger economic environment for our city.
Senator Pugh. This comes from Andrea Rakowski of Wyden Park. She asks, how will you ensure that children attending both charter and neighborhood schools are funded fairly? She'd like to hear the candidate's thoughts on these and other issues affecting city schools.
Thank you so much for the question. First of all, I believe that the mayor ought to be accountable for the schools. And so as a result of that, I put in legislation requiring that the mayor take control of the school system. Because if you remember, back in 1997, when we cut the deal to get the additional monies for the school system because we were in dire need, that deal was for 10 years, 1997 to 2007, and no one's revisited and said, well, how do we get back control of our school system? So that legislation is currently in. We believe that it will move forward. But more importantly, we want to make sure that every school gets equal funding. The mayor is actually the cheerleader for the city and should go to Annapolis with an agenda. As many of you know, funding is based on a formula that we put in place. And one of the problems with our current formula is that it is wealth-based and population-based. And many of you know that we're going to lose $24 million this year because of the wealth-based TIF projects that are going on in the city. So my advocacy will be around making that formula more available to Baltimore City in the sense that we look at it from a poverty base as opposed to wealth base, and that we make sure that funding across the board for both public and charter schools, the mayor should set that example that this is the direction that we want to go in. The other thing that I want to do for the school system is to expand Judy Centers. And many of you may or may not know of Judy Centers, where we start educating our children at 6 weeks of age. Thank you.
Mr. McCray, same question to you. How would you ensure children attending both charter and neighborhood schools are funded fairly?
Wow, come back after her with that. That's gonna be tough. But from my perspective, I'll be honest with everybody. I'm not a really big fan of charter schools. we have public schools. All we have to do is keep them funded from the jump. But they're here now, so we're gonna have to do, we wanna make sure everybody is funded equally, because difference between charter schools and public schools, they handpick their students. If I have anything to say or do, if the people have a problem with it, is in charter schools, honestly, and all that, because we got, especially elementary age kids, gotta travel across town just to go to school. And all we have to do is, as a mayor and administration, take full responsibility. And all the past people, mayors that allowed these charter schools and administration to come by, they allowed this problem to happen. Along with that, just bring forth better programs to bring better relations between teachers and the parents at the end of the day. So since we have this, every neighborhood's not the same, I'm definitely want to make sure everybody be equally funded, and in neighborhoods that are in stress, definitely have the programs needed and help so we can build that bridge and that gap. Thank you for your time.
For Mr. Harris, this also comes from the Medfield Community Association. They would like to know, how do candidates plan to support neighbors in healthy neighborhoods who are trying to keep those neighborhoods strong? Their case in point is vacant houses. There seems to be a lack of concern from the community, and that the city has not responded to the point that they'd like them to. There are people asking, how can we move this process forward, because these properties are hurting our community. My question is, what can be done, either to remove some of the burdensome bureaucracy here, or put more power in the hands of the people who are invested in a quick solution?
Long question. So I'm gonna answer that question, but I want to answer a few of the questions as well. We talked about crime earlier, and what are we going to do about the homicide rate? And so I view crime slightly different than other candidates, understanding that crime is a symptom of a greater issue. And if you had the flu, I wouldn't look at you and say, well, we're going to treat that cough. We treat the root cause, which is the flu, and the root cause of crime is poverty. And what do we know about crime in our city? We know that 75% of felony crimes are committed by individuals who have prior interaction with the law. So basically, they're in the streets, they get in trouble, they go to jail, they get out, they can't get a job because they have a record, and they go back to jail. So if we want to have an immediate impact on crime reduction in our city, we have to focus on preventing offenders from reoffending. And if you have a living wage job, your chances of going back to the streets to commit crimes is less likely. And so as part of that, in a city with 40,000 plus vacant properties, it doesn't look like a problem to me. It looks like a perfect opportunity to train and prepare a workforce that will sustain itself for years. And moving towards energy efficiency, knowing that in Maryland, on the state level, we have the Maryland Renewable Portfolio Standards, which requires our energy suppliers to meet a certain requirement, clean energy by the year 2022. If we move in that direction, we can really begin to renovate and rehab and develop the houses that exist and make sure that they're energy efficient and we're using clean energy. And so one of the ways that tax incremental financing can be used is to establish a school that would train people and the citizens of Baltimore in construction, green jobs, and hospitality, knowing that these are the industries where bodies are needed, so that we can stop allowing the developers who we give our money to shovel it out of town to construction companies in Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Delaware. So, and I'll have more of that in my comprehensive economic development plan that I'll be releasing in a few weeks.
The next question will be to Patrick Gutierrez. The question comes from Pat Helfrich of Camden. She would like to know, how often should city agencies be audited and by whom?
Thank you for the question. Audits are a cornerstone of my campaign. It will be the first thing that I do as mayor, is commission full-scale financial and performance audits of every city agency, and they will be conducted by an independent outside company to ensure that we're getting the best and most complete audits possible. I believe audits should be done at the very least of every city agency for every 4 years. But in addition to those types of audits, we also need to be doing mini audits randomly, constantly. Because I've managed in situations before where large amounts of money are coming and going. I've managed in cash vaults where we're shipping millions of dollars to the Fed. And we did annual audits and we always got satisfactory scores, but we never suffered any cash losses either. And the reason for that is because of the internal controls that we had in place on a daily basis. Testing for accuracy, dual custody, making sure signatures are required multiple times, moving people around departments so you're not too comfortable with the people you're working with. Those are the types of institutional controls that need to occur at every city agency. And I'm sure everybody up here will agree with that, but not everybody has the experience of being able to do that. I have. I've done it all over the country, including right here in Baltimore. And it's been very successful. And in order for us to be able to implement these ideas and actually see results, we're going to need to have that stable foundation of an honest, efficient, competent city government. And it begins with audits. Thank you.
I think they should be run pretty much or exactly the way any business is run. Every year, a CPA comes in and audits the books and publishes them. Every agency should have the same discipline. Once a year, an independent CPA comes in, audits the books, publishes them. If I'm mayor, I want to see them right on my desk, or if the comptroller, it's the same thing. But once a year, an independent CPA comes in, audits the books, and publishes a report, just like all the businesses in the world. And it works very well in the business world. Of course, Enron sort of disrupted everything, but I think that's what has to be done with the city agencies. Because I worked in the school system for 25 years, and the waste is just phenomenal. And most of the waste, you see, could be avoided by some kind of accounting system.
Baltimore, a city that was not designed for the car, is undergoing development boom in some communities, with Camden being one. What responsibility does the city and mayor have to use the Department of Transportation to address progressive paths forward where density, positive growth is running into limited space to operate vehicles everywhere? When do we start putting livability ahead of the right to drive?
It's a very real question. But in all seriousness, Baltimore is a modern city, and we need to have a modern transportation system. We do not. We have a terrible transportation system. And there's two things I would point out, two points to start from. One is the fact that 30% of households in Baltimore do not have access to a car. And in some neighborhoods, it's upwards of 70% who do not have access to a car and rely completely on public transportation. And another point, millennials choose where to live. The majority of people who are younger than 40 choose where to live based in large part on whether they have to own a car. So we have to serve our citizens and to be competitive as a city, we have got to fix this issue. And it's a couple of things. One is looking long-term and having a mayor who can work with the state and the federal government to build a red line and to connect our subway systems and invest in infrastructure in the kind of sustainable and large-scale way that we have to as a modern city. But it's also saying, what can we do now? What can we do in the short term to be a leader, to be an innovator in Baltimore and take advantage of what exists and what we could do better? And that's implementing Transform Baltimore. It's our new zoning code that has been languishing in City Hall for years. And it has some really positive steps towards transit-oriented development and towards really focusing on livable, walkable neighborhoods. And there's lots of other short-term ideas like implementing the bike master plan that we could do now. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chief, I have the same question to you. What responsibility does the city and mayor have to use the Department of Transportation to address progressive paths forward where density is running into a limited space to operate vehicles everywhere?
Thank you. I actually wanted that police question. I mean, back at the areas, I didn't like his answer so much. Psychopath. But you know, this question brought back something to my memory where a lot of houses was not built, or communities was not built to have two vehicles. Unfortunately, you know, in the 21st century, you know, a lot of people are having 1 or 2 cars to a household. So to answer this question in a responsible manner, we definitely want to have options. And in my plan, which I'm looking at the transportation issues we're having, it's going to be tough without budget, quite honestly. So I have not put a lot of thought into how I would deal with that issue. Sounds weird coming from a mayor, right? But I'm being honest. How do we fix that problem? And Hampton is a great community. We have a lot of communities where we have a lot of vacant properties, right? So when we start to build up other communities, you know, hopefully I hope to see a shift into these other communities where we don't have a lot of people only in Hampton. We can have people living in Penn North that is actually a safe neighborhood. So actually that's my solution to that problem. because some issues, let's face it, we have a lot of issues in Baltimore City, and I mean, we have some same issues we had 10 years ago. So I'm a little bit realistic, and I'm not going to try to insult your intelligence by telling you something that is going to be hard to fix. Thank you.
Close these in alphabetical order, so Mr. Peabody, do you want to go first? 60 seconds.
Okay, so I mean, I'm gonna kind of engage the audience a little bit, if I may. How many people in here are undecided on who they're going to vote for? Can you see my hands? Yes. Usually, when we go to forums, we have all these people that have stove shirts and pew shirts. I'm like, this is a waste of my time. But I want to say that, you know, in the city, we have a serious issue with crime and police reform and poverty. And I believe, and I know I can do the job. And I'm going to do it not by myself, but I'm going to enlist the help of these other candidates around me here. They have some great plans, they really do. Elizabeth, great plans. Hugh, Warnock, outstanding insight when talking about police. I believe I can do the job because I can work with anyone. And I have the experience of working with people, answering tough questions. You know, not a lot of people, you know, will take breaks and still keep their job. Wow, that was 60 seconds? Jeez, me Christmas. All right, so if you want to know about me, www.cupidforme.com. Thank you for your time. Have a good one.
Eleanor Roosevelt talked about leaders who light a candle instead of cursing the darkness. And in Baltimore, we've had some very, very dark times, and we need to learn from them. But I want to focus on leading Baltimore to a brighter future. Because Baltimore has everything that it needs to be a safe and prosperous and fair city with the right leadership. And I'm running for mayor because this is my city. It's a city I was born in, where I grew up, where I went to public school, and where I want to spend the rest of my life. And that's why I've spent my career trying to make Baltimore a better place with great success. And it's the reason I want to be mayor, to continue doing that. I want to make the streets safer, to reduce violence, to make sure our schools are serving our children, to grow our economy, to hold our government accountable. And I'm a realist, and I understand the challenges we face, and I know the darkness we've come out of, but I also know the potential of the city. And I know it because I've seen it every day in the people and the institutions and the organizations that are doing such great work in this city. I know we can do better, and I've spent my career doing just that. Thank you so much for having me here tonight.
Mr. Gerard, you get your closing statement, please.
What's the question?
Just your closing statement. Closing statement.
Well, again, thank you very much for inviting me. I hope we can have a good dialogue in the general election. That's one of the reasons I'm running, is not to give a free ride to the mayor like we did 4 years ago, whether it's Mr. Walden or me or Mr. Wardrow. Somebody's going to give a challenge to the person that wins the Democratic nomination. I think we need a two-party system. I think the homicide rate of 55 per 100,000 compared to other cities begs to have a dialogue of why it's so high and what can be done. So thank you very much for having me, and I don't think we have too many Republicans here tonight, but I'll assume that I'll win the primary, and therefore you can vote for me in the general election.
So we hear a lot at all of these forums about what needs to be done, but we don't hear enough about how they're going to do it. That's the key to this election, because we've heard ideas before, and we've heard these plans before, and they're good plans, but those plans need to be executed in order to see results. So when we talk about changing workplace culture, yes, that needs to happen. But has anybody up here done that before? Because I have, 4 different times. We talk about bringing accountability to operations. Has anybody done that successfully before? I have, all across the country. We talk about making sure that employees at every level are given the tools, the training, and the resources to do their jobs properly. Has anybody done that around the country? I have. So that's why I'm running for mayor, because I believe we are finally ready at a point where we want somebody who's going to deliver results. So please vote for me, Patrick Gutierrez, for mayor. Check out my website, abetterbaltimore.org, and my Facebook page, because you'll see how my response is getting all around the communities. Thank you very much.
Mr. Harris, close statement.
I wish I would have got that Viking question, but know that if we meet the Maryland Renewable Portfolio standards, we will reduce our carbon emissions by 11 million metric tons, would be the equivalent of removing 2.5 million cars off the road. Anyway, we sat up here tonight and we listened to people talk about how they're so invested and committed to investing in people and creating opportunities and putting our city to work. Right now we have a petition online to repeal the city council's decision about the recent tip that was given to the biopark. There's only 2 candidates up here who have said anything about the issue. This will create jobs, train people for those jobs, and give them jobs that exist right now in the city. The traditional politics has politicians remain silent on issues unless forced to say something. I'm tired of it. I'm sure you're tired of it. We need someone who's going to take a stand for something. And I'm running as a Green Party candidate because I also believe that we need leadership in the city that is unafraid to go against the grain and do what is right, regardless of party affiliation and regardless of the status quo. I'm here asking you to do not what is the safe thing to do, the popular thing to do, or the politic thing to do, but to do the right thing. And so I'm Joshua Harris. You can visit my website, Harris for Baltimore, and I look forward to meeting you all after. Thank you.
I first want to say, everybody who support everybody's campaigns, you don't have to vote for them at all, whether you work for them or not. Whether you're getting paid or not, you can vote for McCray. Okay? All right, so everybody, it's time for a change. Y'all have been hearing it all night. Everywhere in the city, it's time for a change. It's time to change the status quo. It's time to change the leaderships. The direction of the city is going the wrong way, and I've seen a lot of things happen in my life and all that, politically, even socially and all that. And if you're definitely looking for somebody different, if you're definitely looking for somebody who don't owe anybody, false corporate America something, vote for McCray. McCrayforthepeople.com. You're not going to see me on the city paper because it's all about wealth and all that. I got like 2 sentence lines. I'm not one of the Green Party members that used to put ballot access, but for real, I'm here to battle, I'm here to win. Baltimore's a big city, we're small enough to get the message across. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for being here this evening. I want you to know I love Baltimore. This is my family, this is my life, this is my calling. I believe as I stood on the corners during the unrest in our city, my message never changed. I said this city is filled with people of all colors, race, religion. We're rich, we're poor. But what the world saw in April was a city that looked like a second city. People walking out of their doors where roofs were falling down. But what I do know, with my experience, both in the private sector, as a business owner, as a banker, as dean and director of Strayer Business College, and my public experience as a city council person who created the Fish Out of Water project, wired our classrooms, and provided $1 million for our schools, I know that all of these experiences have led me to this point, and I look forward to being the next mayor of Baltimore. Thank you.
Thank you again for coming out this evening. Listen, there are folk who have 15-point plans, 57-point plans. In the first 6 months, there are only 4 or 5 things that I am going to attempt to do to get us moving in the right direction. First, I'm going to audit all of the city agencies. I'm the guy who had to pass a law in city council to get the city government to audit its books. I had to do that. Secondly, I'm going to hire competent people, people who respect you, people who are not from New York, Philadelphia, not that there aren't great people there, but people who know you, people who, when you call downtown and they pick up the phone and you say, you know, I usually get a $75 water bill, it's $400. They don't say, so pay the bill, come back later. No. I'm going to hold folk accountable. I'm going to put our officers on the street. What we're not touching is the violence in our city. I want to take those folk off the streets who are most violent. I want to take wow. Well, you hear where I'm going with this. Vote for Carl Stokes. Carl Stokes 2016, not fine.
Mr. Walden?
First time I went to vote after moving to Baltimore City, the nice lady I approached at the counter said, "Are you a Democrat or a Republican?" I said, "I'm a Republican," and she said, "You're kidding." But rather than wander around singing the Blue State Blues, I have to get involved now because I feel compelled to do it. Because as I said earlier, we have to redefine the city of Baltimore. We have to love the city of Baltimore. We have to understand the greatness of the city of Baltimore as it exists while we're dealing with the problems and the issues that need to be confronted. And there are plenty of them. Starting with education, we have to teach our children how to work, not just how to get college degrees they will never use. We need better mass transportation. We need better law enforcement. We have to restructure the way law enforcement is conducted while not demonizing the police department. Most of all, we have to understand what government can't do, and that is, it can't do everything.
You might not know this, but I have an organization, Citizens Oversight Maryland, that's been in operation for years. I'm known all over the city. I have thousands of followers following my public policy Facebook page and my website blog. They know me, they like me, they support me. I am not seen in the larger venues because I am not Baltimore Development. I'm not the establishment, and I am the one that citizens want for the change. I would like everybody to go to my campaign website, Cindy Walsh for Mayor of Baltimore, and you'll see a long list of platform issues. You'll see questionnaires from community organizations, all responded on every issue. Go to my Facebook page and take a look at a long list of public policy issues. When you heard Mr. Gutierrez say, raise my hand, I rose my hand every time because I'm as qualified as he is, of course, but I also know the public policy that is needed to run government. Cindy Walsh for Mayor of Baltimore. Thank you.
I know I'm just like you. Glad this is almost over so I can go home. What makes me different than any other candidate on this, wonderful candidates on this stage, is I'm just like you. And when I mean I'm just like you, I'm raising 9 kids at home, family blended family. I was born and raised in this beautiful, gorgeous city. For 40 years, I suffered the same thing you all suffered. I suffered the lack of jobs, the lack of skill training, the roads, the neighborhoods, the division. But what I love about Baltimore City is we always come together. I heard a lot of candidates mention the incident of April, but here's a story. How about you at work, you can't get home because they closed your side of town off. Your wife and kids are at home, alone, without the father in the home. And a car bomb go off, and you can't get there. That right there told me it's time for me to leave from behind the scenes and into the scenes. Larry Wardlow for Mayor, friends of LarryWardlowJr.com. Thank you.
As I said earlier, I'm about jobs and opportunity, and I'm about real change, and I deliver on my promises. I'm in this race because I believe our city government has been inadequate on almost every front. We can't count the number of kids in our public schools. Our public pension plans are underfunded, except those for the elected officials, which is overfunded. Our roads are filled with potholes. But I'm also in this race because I believe that we can build great community schools, because I've done it at Green Street Academy. I believe that we can remove the barriers to returning citizens and challenge people to getting employment, because we've done it at the Center for Urban Families. And I want to write the greatest turnaround story in America with you in the town that we all love, Baltimore. Thank you very much.